in my own business, in my own life, to go from kind of hating my vision board to actually living it without having to think about it constantly. And what to do if you have a goal, but you just aren't feeling it. That's what we're going to do. All right. So I've got my phone up here. So if you're around, tell me in the comments where you're from and what your topic is so that I can check in with you guys. And I'll be checking comments as we go. So if you have any questions as we go through these abundance practices, then I would love to hear from you. All right. So right away, tell me in the chat where you're from. And what we're going to talk about today is how to manage the energy of abundance, because I find that most people don't really understand what it means, or it's come to be one of those words that means so many things that it might as well not mean anything at all, like mindset or coaching, right? Are you with me? So the very first question that I'm going to ask you, and put this in the comments, if you're watching the replay, give me a big old hashtag replay, and I will make sure that I come back and check and respond to your comments, because I always do. So make sure that you give me a hashtag replay. Tell me where you're from, tell me what your topic is, and here's my big question for you. Ready? What does abundance mean to you? So the more you understand what your personal definition of abundance is, the more likely you are to manifest it. And I'm not talking manifest in this LOA, law of attraction kind of way, although that too, right? So if you're into the law of attraction, if you understand how those mechanisms work, great. This is going to make perfect sense to you. If you're totally not into the law of attraction, and I didn't used to be, and you're like, oh, give me a break from the woo, like just tell me something that I can actually use, then this is going to work for you too. Okay, so I like to be able to speak to both those parts of me, essentially, because that's what I struggled with. So the very first thing you've got to do is define what abundance means to you. So I'm going to look at what your answers are to that so that I can respond. I love this. I love what's coming in. Okay, while you guys are typing, I can see you guys typing frantically. Oh, yeah, here we go. Oh, there's Raina, there's Katie. Hey, Katie. I love it. So tell me what abundance means to you. And what we're going to talk about now to kind of kick this off is vision versus goals. Okay, this is really important because I used to be somebody who set goals. I used to read all the same business books that I'm sure you do. And you know, what is that acronym? SMART. What does it stand for? Come on, tell me in the comments. Specific, measurable, achievable. Oh yes, realistic. Lost me at realistic, because realistic is for suckers. All right. Why on earth would you want to set a realistic goal? That I find, okay, maybe this is just me, but my problem was that I'm really turned on and really kind of juiced up by unrealistic goals. Everything that I wanted to do when I was coming off of maternity leave and I had basically not made income in a really long time, it was not realistic to set the idea of retiring Pat from his 9 to 5. It was not realistic to think we were going to make 6 figures in the very short term. But that's exactly what I needed to give me all of the motivation to go through everything that I had to go through internally to face my own fears and my own blocks in order to get us there. Does this make sense? R is also used as relevant. Sure, and that's fair. I just really had a very hard time with setting goals this way, and I'll tell you why. But I did it, just so we're clear, I did do it. I set my goals, and goals are often, revenue goals. You want to make sure you have savings goals. You have a vision of what kind of house you want to live in, and I did all of that. I actually had a physical vision board as well. And some of those things worked because it helped. I found, interestingly enough, when I was nursing, when I'd been that kind of like prolactin-induced oxytocin haze of like nursing the kid, half asleep, when I started to think about what it is that I wanted my life to look like, all of those things always manifested. So how do you do it when you're not nursing? And what about those goals really bothered me? I'll tell you what it was. What do you do? Answer this. What do you do when month after month, week after week, day after day, you have this revenue goal, you have this idea of what kind of money you want to make, revenue goals especially, right? They really bothered me. And then you're not making them. and you're doing everything that you can think of. And then you're like, you get to that place where you're like, do I keep doing this thing that I'm doing now and just think, okay, know that, if I do it like 17 more times, I'm going to break through. It's like push-ups, right? You don't have big, strong muscles the very first push-up you do, but you know that if you keep doing them, you're going to get there. Is it that, or am I doing the wrong strategy? How many of you are in this position, right? You're frustrated because you're like, I have this goal. I'm far away from it. I've been far away from it for a very long time. I keep trying to get to it. I am working my tail off and it's just not happening. Been there. I totally get it. You've got the BHAGs, which is the big, hairy, audacious goals. That's how goal setting works. They're very specific. They're very measurable. The idea is that you can communicate it to your team and all of that good stuff. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that it didn't work for me. Here's what works for me instead. So what I do is I don't have goals anymore. I have a vision. And the difference in my mind of the difference between a vision and a goal in my mind is a vision is a feeling. I know it's kind of it's confusing because you think vision, it's something you can see. No, you can have an idea, like you can have visual representations of what you want your life to look like or what you want your business to feel like. You might visualize Stripe notifications or PayPal notifications around revenue. You might have this idea of, I log into my bank account and I see X amount of dollars in my savings account, whatever that looks like to you. So those are the visual representations, and that's part of the puzzle. I'm not knocking it. This is helpful. However, the real thing that you have to focus on, and the way that we teach it in our program and what I practice on the daily, is I started to focus on, I was like, what is that oxytocin haze? Remember I just told you about, I was like, when I was nursing, everything that I wanted, I just kept manifesting. What was it about that state that made things happen for me so quickly? But then when I got really kind of cerebral and specific and measurable and all of that stuff about it, it stopped working. In fact, the more I focused, you know how they say the more you focus on something, it grows? I was like, the more I focused on it, the more it felt like it was running away from me. So what I realized it was that if I put myself in the physical, emotional state of what it would feel like to achieve those goals. So the goal is always a representation of something. I tell myself, I will be happy when I reach that goal. I will feel a particular way when I reach that goal. You've got your own stories about this, right? You've got your own numbers that you're gunning for, your own story of how it's going to feel when you finally hit that number. Whatever that feeling is that you're working towards, I want you to start feeling the feeling. And this is weirdly not as easy as it sounds. It's actually very simple. It's just not necessarily easy. Once you start feeling the feeling, you're now feeling that feeling of abundance. You're feeling loved. You're feeling confident. You're feeling capable. You're feeling purposeful. You're feeling fulfilled. Whatever it is that those goals represent for you, when you wash your cells, the cells of your body, in those feelings on the daily, and you use your vision, and you could still have a vision board. The vision board works really well. This is how the people who have vision boards and for whom it works make it work. And they just don't always know that they're doing this. They often do it unconsciously. They do it completely intuitively. But this is the difference between people with vision boards that work and people with vision boards where they're like, why? Right? Or their vision board makes them feel bad. So that can also happen. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So did we get this? You really, even though it's called vision, it's not so much about what you can see. It's really about what you feel. And you want to feel those feelings very deliberately, very intentionally. And you probably want to have little breaks throughout the day when you deliberately wash your body and wash your cells in the feelings of abundance and release. And that brings me to my next point. Know your subconscious inhibitor. So often you'll get to a place where you're doing this, you're gaining momentum, you're actually feeling pretty dang good. You feel like you're making progress in lots of different ways. And then you'll have a bad day. You'll hit some kind of wall. And you're going to be like, oh, I'm doing all the things, I'm feeling the feelings, but it's not working. Again, I've been here. When you do something for real, when you practice what you preach, when you lead by example, that's the beauty of the way we work, is that I've actually done all of these practices. I continue to do them on the daily. And so I have hit all of the blocks that you're likely to hit. So here's what I have noticed. When I also get to this place every so often, right? I'll hit some kind of limit where I'm like, My body's like, no, you're not allowed to have this. You're not allowed to feel this. You're not worthy. This is that story of unworthiness, your subconscious block, right? You're not worthy of feeling this. You're not worthy for this to be so easy or so available to you. When I get to that situation, I use the subconscious blocks exercise. If you haven't visited the subconscious, if you don't know what I'm talking about and you're a newbie perhaps and you haven't followed me for a while, you need to go into the video section of the Facebook group, Messaging That Makes Money, go to the video section, go find the subconscious blocks exercise. It's a 5-step exercise. It has changed people's lives. It has definitely changed my own life 100%, because what it's going to do is it's going to show you what your inhibitors are. It's going to show you what your limiters are. Whatever that story is, whatever the fear is, your subconscious is on your team. It's not some dickhead that's just trying to get you off your goals. It's not. I used to feel that way for the longest time, and I'm like, oh, I gotta fix my subconscious. It's not broken. It's actually totally fine. It's just that your subconscious is like a 5-year-old. 5-year-olds are very literate. They're very literal. Sorry, they're actually not very literate. Now, when you think about it, they're very literal, right? They're very black and white. When they see something, they're like, oh, safe, good, like it, going for it. When they want something, they're all about it. And when they don't, they're just not interested. That's what your subconscious is like. And so your subconscious's job is to keep you safe, is to keep your well-being. Your well-being is its number one priority. It's just that unfortunately, it often gets confused. It is misinformed. So that's what we talk about when we talk about programming. That's what it is. When society gives you, when society feeds you with stories of, you're supposed to fill in the blank. It's better if you fill in the blank, be realistic or whatever, relevant, or whatever that is that doesn't quite feel right to you, that's going to cause a block. And oftentimes, if you're going to go for something unrealistic, which was my favorite, right, to go for something totally cuckoo bananas, then that brings up a whole bunch of subconscious fear. And if I don't deal with it, then that process of feeling the feelings, that only works on a good day. It doesn't work on days when this block comes up. But here's the other thing that I realized. When the block comes up, it's not a bad thing. It's not a sign that you don't know what you're doing. It's not a sign that the process is not working for you. It is in fact a sign that that block has finally been surfaced for healing. Does that make sense? You're actually bringing it up because you have finally resourced yourself enough so that the block can be surfaced and you can deal with it. Now, most people don't have a process for dealing with it, which is why I highly recommend you go to the subconscious blocks exercise. It's 5 simple steps. It's really powerful. And step 3 is where you're going to identify exactly what your subconscious is afraid of, what it's protecting you from. And step 4, I'm going to teach you how to release the block. So it's really powerful. Go check that out. Moving on. Number 3, visit the vision daily. So we talked about this a little bit. I wash my cells in the feeling daily, right? What I do is I wake up in the morning and I have it on my phone. I have it in a journal. I have written it out many times. I will write out my vision. I will find ways to kind of resource my vision to make it more concrete so that I can visit it daily. The other thing I love to do, it's a process called visualization that I teach in my program. What I do is I put on headphones, big noise canceling headphones. I play music. So I have a little playlist that I've created. It's just instrumental music. It's just really like moving, emotionally moving, uplifting music. And then I find it easier to do this with music. I have done it silent for like years before I thought to combine it with music. I've used a mala. I had one here somewhere and my kids have run away with it. But if those 108 bead malas, that can be a really powerful tool to use as well, where you can just like run through your mala. You can use a rosary if that's what you prefer and that's what you have lying around. It really doesn't matter. You don't need any of these things. You can do it completely calmly, silently with your, sitting in a lotus position or lying down. It doesn't matter. But what you do is you deliberately put yourself in the state of bliss of you're already there. Now you're stepping out of a time machine. You don't have to figure out the how. The how is not part of this process. You just have to figure out, you step out of the time machine and you look around and you feel the satisfaction of having built what you've built. You feel the safety that you've created. You feel the joy of having put your genius out in the world in a way that it is being received the way that you've always dreamed about. You feel that feeling that I know is the light of my life, which is that feeling of the light in your mind kind of turns the light in someone else's mind on. I love that feeling. So you want to feel that feeling so you know what you're playing for. I mean, I have a version of this that I do with my coaching when I get on group coaching calls. We have our coaching manifesto that I talked about a few weeks ago, and I will read through it, and there's almost always a line. It's not always the same line, interestingly, but there will be something specific that resonates for me on that day. And because I'm going in with that lens, now I am just so freaking effective at what I'm doing on those calls, because I'm like, I know that today I'm going to like really put a lot of energy into the right diagnosis. Today I'm going to put a lot of energy into the deep listening of like what is actually going on here. Today I'm going to put a lot of energy into the lived experience, and I'll tell stories that really speak deeply to my clients and what they're going through, even though we on the surface have nothing in common. Does that make sense? So that's how I do it. And when you visit your vision daily, first of all, you're coming into your real life, which, I mean, if you're a mom, right, your real life is probably going to be like you're sitting there in blissful meditation and then your kid just like jumps on your crotch. That's just how it's going to be. But it's fine because you can bring that kind of blissful state into the rest of your morning, no matter how chaotic it is. And I will tell you this, I'm going to tell you this right now. When you start to practice this, until it becomes really deeply ingrained as a practice, sometimes it can actually make you a little crabby to go from like, spa to kids, right? That dissonance can be a little bit jarring. So if you can create some kind of buffer where you have 5 or 10 minutes to kind of arrive into real life, resituate yourself, and then greet whoever it is that needs you. So that's just a little piece of advice from having done this. Now, number 4, we've talked about this before as well, but I'm going to talk about it again because it's so freaking important around abundance. Know how you get paid. If you don't know how you get paid, and Katie had some really great stuff around what abundance means to her. So one of the things I've talked about on a previous live is most people don't know how they get paid. Most people don't know what fills up their cup. They don't know their love language. So if you haven't taken the 5 love languages quiz, it's free. It's out there on the internet. Just Google it. That's one way to do it. I always struggled, by the way, to find my love language. Just so you know, if that's you, we know, we're similar. But if you ask me to write down a list of all the things that make me feel loved, that make me feel joyful, that make me feel good in my body, that make me feel important, significant, that make me feel wanted, that make me feel useful, that make me feel like I'm doing something of value, I can answer those questions. And I've done this over time. And those answers will shift, by the way, over time. As you age, as you evolve, as your circumstances evolve, those answers are going to, make little shifts. They won't be like wildly different, but they're going to make little shifts. So having these answers crystal clear in your own mind allows you to resource everybody in your circle so that they know what to give you when you're the most depleted. How many of us go through a situation where we're going through our lives and we're like, ugh, I'm like so tired. I feel like crap. What do you need, love? If someone were to ask you, what do you need, love? And you're like, I don't know. If you're in that place, it's kind of like you could order anything and it's right outside your door, but you're just like, I don't know. I don't think I can open the door. That's how that feels. So when you know what you will be resourced by, when you know what is going to fill up your cup. And it could be, like I said, it's not just about business. It's not just about money, because the money is the part that you can't always control. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put that on the table, right? You can't always control exactly when that sale is going to come in. Yes, building good systems, and we teach our clients to do that. Those are crucial. Knowing how to put yourself out there, that is crucial. Knowing what your subconscious limiters are that prevent you from putting yourself out there, that is crucial too. We have processes for all of that. But can you predict to a second when that is going to take and when the dollars are going to hit your bank account? No. I mean, even at my level, I can't. I still can't. And we run a 7-figure business, right? So what I do know, though, is if I am getting paid every single day, and we'll get to that as a separate point, but if I know exactly all the ways that I'm getting paid, I'm going to, as my mentor Jesse Itzler likes to say, I'm going to stay in the game long enough for luck to find me. I'm going to stay in the game long enough to amass the team around me that is going to build this vision with me. I'm going to stay in the game long enough for my clients to be able to find me. I'm going to stay in the game long enough that people can count on me. People being, most of all, me, right? If I'm knowing how to pace myself, if I know how to feed myself, if I know how to feed my energy, if I know how to feed my abilities, then that becomes a really big predictor of my success. And that brings me to the next piece. So know how you get paid is really, really important. I'm going to ask you to share with me in the comments section here, how do you get paid? Yeah, Renee Singh, thank you for speaking to the possibility of frustration when going from like the spa meditation to like kids or reality. It absolutely happens. I've lived it many times, which is why I mention it. You have to stay in the game long enough for luck to find you. That really resonated with me when I heard it. So tell me, share in the comments section at least one way, and hopefully many, that you know that you get paid, where you can get paid predictably. This is something that you can either do for yourself, you can have somebody you love that you have access to do for you, something that you can put in your environment that you can enjoy regularly. Like it could be as simple as you like a really good, like this is one of Pat's ways, right? He likes a really good cup of coffee in the morning. So we have a coffee grinder and we have an espresso machine and we have really good quality beans. Like it's not a big deal. Most of those things actually weren't as expensive as I always thought they would be before we actually acquired them. And now he can start his day getting paid. Does that make sense? And then if I make the coffee for him, that's a little extra nudge in his bank account. Bank, love bank, you know what I mean? So that's one of the ways that I like to think about this. So tell me in the comments how you guys get paid. So I want to know how you get paid. And while you're writing that, I'm going to bring you to the next point, which is invest in yourself. Again, how many of us, and I've done this too so many times, the coffee machine is probably a great example of this. For the longest time, we talked about how much we love coffee, and we would spend money that we thought we didn't have on coffee outside, going to Starbucks or going to, these really cute local boutique cafes. And we would buy coffee after coffee there. But we told ourselves, no, we can't buy an espresso machine. That feels like a really crazy luxury. Can't do it, right? For some reason, that was that story of unworthiness. When we finally decided, okay, let's do the research. And I just want to be clear, we said no to ourselves without having any actual data. We didn't know what the cost would be. We didn't know what the investment would be. We just said no before we started. And so stupidly, I will tell you, over the course of many, many, many coffees, because when you love coffee, that is what you do. You spend loads of money outside on coffees. We spent probably triple or quadruple what it would have cost us to acquire that machine to begin with. And when we finally did the research, we realized, oh, coffee machines. I mean, you don't need a restaurant quality one. We just wanted a really solid home one. A Breville is what we ended up getting. It wasn't that expensive to begin with. It was less than $200. I can't remember exactly what we paid for it. It was like, I think it was $150. And we were like, oh my God, what? Why did we wait so long? Right? And then over time, we acquired the grinder because at that point, we were putting all the money back into the business. So I just want to be clear that oftentimes we will talk ourselves out of investing in ourselves. And I don't just mean money. I mean time. I mean attention. How many of you have stayed up late at night knowing that you need the rest? You're so tired. You were crabby with your kids, or you were just like completely checked out during supper. And you're like, I am so going to bed early tonight. I don't have time for anything. And then you don't allow yourself to read a book. You don't allow yourself to get some exercise or do yoga or whatever it is that would actually bring you into that state of relaxation. Instead, you scroll on your social and you're like, yeah, just one more thing. And then I'm like, no, I'm totally going to bed. And then an hour and a half later, you're still up. And you haven't had anything nourish you. It's gone, right? That's such a big deal. Okay. So Renee says, I can ask my boyfriend to scratch my back physically. He will stop what he's doing for a quick back scratch, and it physically and mentally clears energy for me. That's awesome, Renee. I'm gonna have to try that. Boo, that's hilarious. Boo's always asking me to scratch her back, so maybe she's onto something. The fact that he will stop what he's doing and give me a quick back scratch is good for both of us. It helps us connect and it works well for both of us. That's beautiful. And I love that you know this about yourself, Renee. And I love that you have given him a way, a simple way for him to show you that he loves you and show you that he cares. It doesn't cost him very much. He gets to make that decision to invest in you as a couple. He gets to invest that little moment. And those little moments, they compound, they add up. This is about compounding interest, right? This is just like money. So yeah, this is really huge. Let me see. I think Melissa said, I get paid by time for my self-care, ability to be my own boss. Oh, yes, that feeling of helping others. Can take a break when I need them. That's huge. I love that also. One of the ways I get paid is I get paid by giving myself the freedom to stop working. So every day at a certain time of the day, I'm just like, Slack is off, everything is off, notifications are off. I check out. And then I just, barring like an absolute life or death emergency, which doesn't happen very often in our company, I'm done. And then we don't talk about work. Sometimes like Pat will start to talk about work and I'm like, I can't talk about work right now. I'm really scrambled. I'm sorry. And then I'll read books about relationships or kids or fiction or whatever. And I'll just release. And that's another way that I invest in myself. I invest in my own well-being. All right. So let me see here. Katie has a good one. I love this. Oh yeah, we have this in common. I love this. I get paid when my clients get results. That's something I can count on. I love that. I get paid every time I walk downstairs and have a hot tub and pool right there. Love that. I get paid every time I see my husband and work with him. We're twins. Absolutely. That is such a huge knowing. Just the thing is, we have all of this, and oftentimes this payment is accruing in our account, but we're not aware of it. It's almost like having a hidden bank account where you're actually rich, but you feel poor every day. And that's so silly. That is such a waste of abundance. So one of the things that I know, and one of the reasons that I talked so much at the beginning of this live about washing yourselves in that energy. So if you're a law of attraction student or aficionado, then you understand this notion of vibration, right? If you're not a law of attraction aficionado, then think about it this way. When you feel great, you're going to show up with a certain energy. You're going to make certain decisions. You're going to take certain actions. But if deep down you feel depleted or you feel blocked, and that speaks to the subconscious blocks, then that's going to affect your actions. If you're on if you're on some kind of weight loss plan, for example, and you're like, oh my God, this is not working. I can't believe it. I'm 3 weeks in, nothing's changed, yada, yada. You're much more likely to binge. You're much more likely to skip your workout. You're much more likely to do something that ultimately sabotages your progress, right? So, and from an energetic point of view, here's what I believe. I believe that when you constantly see your goal, so like this is in the vision board kind of example, if you're looking at your goal and it actually makes you feel bad, not good, which when you haven't dealt with your blocks, that's exactly what happens, then what you're ending up doing is you're practicing the feeling of disappointment. You're practicing the feeling of letdown. You're practicing the feeling of anger or rage or whatever your go-to feeling is. Everybody has a go-to one, right? I have been working on my disappointment. This piece, just so you know, you're not alone. It affects everybody. I have gotten it down to a thin sliver, but it's still there. I still notice it from time to time when it comes up in interactions. And I'm like, oh, there it is again. I'm still working on it. So because I know that this has been a pattern for me where disappointment was a very, very heavily conditioned neural pathway in my mind, I would often go there right away. The slightest excuse to feel disappointed or feel like it's not working or feel like fill in the blank with whatever that was, I would feel it. And then I would take myself out of the game. Luck wouldn't find me. I wouldn't have that staying power. Does that make sense? So now that's one of the reasons we have a hashtag. It is working. This has been a very deliberate reprogramming that I have created for myself. And I'm now very mindful of what my blocks are. And if I don't know what my block is, and sometimes we don't know, I will do the exercise, the same 5-step exercise. I invented it for me. I invented it as something I used to do in my journal privately for several years before I actually shared it publicly. So I would love for you to do the same thing. So Last point that I want to make today is about paying yourself every day. If you want to be a leader, if you see yourself as a leader, if you're the CEO of your company or want to be that and really own it, then you have to show up as the CEO of your life. Okay. And nobody wants to work for a CEO or any kind of company that doesn't pay on time or that doesn't pay regularly, right? You wouldn't want to work with a client like that. You wouldn't want to work for a boss like that. And yet we're often that boss to ourselves. We hold our breath. We clench up our energy. We tell ourselves, I will feel okay when I fill in the blank with some goal or some crap some finish line that you've put down for yourself. And that doesn't work very well. You have to be paid all along the way. Now, will you always be paid in money? Not necessarily. You're going to have plenty of days in your business where you wake up and you do the work and you don't get paid that day. But it ends up compounding. And then, we've had so many of our clients, they'll go through week 1, they'll go through week 2, week 3, 7, 4, 5, 7, 8. They'll exit the program. They haven't made their money back. Oh my God. And then week 9, boom. Like, Melissa, are you watching? $28,000 a week. Just like that. Why? Because all of the decisions compounded and compounded and compounded, and then you get to that point where it tips over. But the way that you do that, the one thing, because I will tell you this, tactics come and tactics go. Everybody will tell you, oh, there's this new thing that you need to try. Sure, I won't deny it. But is that the thing that ultimately makes or breaks success? I don't think so. Because I've seen lots of people jump on a bandwagon, any given bandwagon, and not get results. And the ones who get results and get results consistently, even when they're jumping on new bandwagons and trying new things and branching out and pivoting and everything else, are the people who know how to stay connected to themselves. They're the people who pay themselves every day and they know what payment they need to stay in the game. Does this make sense? I'm going to start looking through. If you have any questions or comments, I would love to see them. Okay. Jennifer, I love your takeaways. Thank you so much. Pay yourself every day. Really, there's really nothing new under the sun. So true. It's all reimagined. I wouldn't say repackaged. It's often reimagined. And when you can reimagine something, you can really recreate something and actually make something new. I truly believe this. There are new things. They're waiting to be born, these new things. And you're much more likely to have the juice to birth them if you're fully nourished, right? You're going to have a healthier baby if you, the mom, and I say mom, dad, whatever gender you consider yourself to be, if you are nourished. So if your baby is an ideology, a methodology, a certification, some kind of process that you want to get out into the world and get into the hands of more and more and more people so that you can affect change, you need to be healthy. You need to take care of yourself. And oftentimes when you do this, you're going to see these little nuances. You're going to see these little gaps where everybody else is seeming to follow the same steps. Everybody will tell their clients, oh, here are the step-by-step instructions. Go follow the steps. The client will get stuck. And then the coach doesn't know what to do because they followed the steps, but they didn't know why it worked for them. And they'll have clients where it doesn't work and they don't know why. If you don't understand how subconscious limiters work, your own, especially your own, you can't help somebody else. And if you don't have a process for discovering and releasing your own, then again, you're going to be like everybody else. All the other coaches out there, all the purely tactical people who just tell you here's a template, here's a worksheet, here's a checklist, here's a cheat sheet or whatever they call them these days, swipe copy, whatever. They'll give you all the things, but when you get stuck, they won't be able to help you. They're like, yeah, I did it. It worked for me. I don't know why it's not working for you. Who knows? And then someday it'll stop working for them too, and they won't know what to do. So what I think is really exciting and important and the final frontier really is to dig into why things work, why anything works for you, or why anything doesn't work for you. Because the things can be changed in and out. But if you have a process for knowing yourself and paying yourself and resourcing yourself, that's how you create abundance for real. All right. Yay. Thank you, Nomita. Nomita says, your cup of joy is so full. It shows. That's inspiring. I mean, I practice what I preach, and gosh knows I have gotten stuck a gajillion ways, a gajillion times along the way. So, I'm happy to answer all the nuances when you bring to me why you guys are stuck. I can almost always see what's happening. So Nomita says, I get paid by having a housekeeper that comes in regularly and that I can call anytime I need her. Huge. I mean, when we started doing that, that was like life changing. And it's interesting. You know what's interesting? I wanted to say something about that. For the longest time, part of my vision was having a chef, or like wouldn't call it a chef, but like having someone cook nutritious meals where I could go back to childhood, right? That feeling of childhood where you open the fridge and there's amazing food in there that you didn't prepare or shop for. That was definitely one of my markers of abundance. And we had it. We lived it. We had someone coming in who would cook and clean for us. She would do the grocery shopping. We would meal plan at the beginning of the week. And then she would create these gorgeous, nutritious, delicious meals that I would just like finish my work day, click, shut my computer, walk over to the other side, and boom, the house would smell delicious. And we would all sit around the table and enjoy eating together. And now, thanks to COVID, we don't have her anymore because it's just, that's not that life anymore. And we have gone back to cooking for ourselves and grocery shopping and doing all of the cleaning. We used to have a housekeeper too. We've gone back to taking it all in. And you know what's interesting? I'm still really bloody happy. Like it hasn't affected it. I'm shocked, to be honest. I thought it would be a huge bump down in quality of life, but our kids really contribute. I mean, if you watch my Insta stories ever, they're cleaning toilets, they're unloading dishwashers, they help with cooking, they clean carpets to earn extra money. We give them financial incentives, we give them other incentives. It has brought us closer as a family, and it doesn't feel like a chore. I think back in the day, I used to feel like, oh, I have to. And then I have to clean it and I have to do this and I have to do that. Now it's kind of completely gamified where we're like, yay, this is cool. And we're going to take the money that we were spending on this and we're going to put it into a vacation fund or a crazy adventure fund or, or buy a gigantic house fund or whatever. And it's fun. It hasn't hurt, which is why I have stopped believing in specific tactics or methodologies, because I used to tell myself I'll be happy when I have someone else cooking for me. And what I've realized is I'm just happy that I get to eat great food. And if I get to cook it with people I love, with, you've seen Boo helping me and eating half the ingredients, like that is so fun. And the specifics of how I get there is irrelevant, because I finally connected deeply to the feeling of abundance that was related to food for me. I finally got clear about how I wanted to feel around food and the preparation of it. And now it really doesn't matter what the mechanism is. The mechanism has become irrelevant. To me, that's true control. That's true freedom. That's true abundance. I'm not dependent on any specific mechanism to get there. Does this make sense at all? Tell me if this makes sense. Because this is an aha that I had very recently. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. Maybe we figured some stuff out, right? So yeah, I'm waiting for your comments to come in about this. But yeah, like I don't think that I would have realized that I could be here if I hadn't maybe first gone through having somebody cook and do the groceries and things like that. Because I used to think that was it. And we had it. And when we had it, I was thrilled with it. And it was everything to me. And now when we lost it, I was like, okay, no big deal. I felt resourced. And because my cup is not empty, I'm not dependent on it to fill my cup anymore, if that makes sense. So transmuting instead of seeking transformation. Thank you, Richard. Exactly. Renee says, was part of the process having the break from the chores and now you have a different lifestyle that you didn't know was possible in the past reality? Yes, I would agree with that. I think having my dream handed to me and then really like rejoicing in it and enjoying it and accepting it and receiving it, then I was able to let it go and it didn't hurt. Maybe I would have felt, and this is something I'm meditating on and peeling back the layers of, but I might have felt differently about having, like, if I'd never had a housekeeper, if I'd never had somebody cooking for us, then maybe I'd still be craving it, because I have still hooked this idea of like, I will, that life will be so amazing, right? That, like, it's possible that that's the case. But now, as I'm doing it for other things, like, I mean, think about it, right? Most of us can't travel right now. So I'm doing it for travel. And I'm like, how can I create travel? What's the feeling of travel for me? So that's a really good way to do that. We can do this experiment together, because I'm still doing it, right? Travel is off the table for the most part. It's funny. We're actually going on vacation tomorrow, but we're going to a chalet. We're not doing it the way we would normally have done it. We're not going out with family. We're not flying my dad in. We're not doing any of those things that we would normally have done. So we're doing it like just as our little family, and we're going to a chalet. But again, if this had not happened, I would have been okay with it. I'm super joyful that it's happening, but I'm also okay with it, because I looked at, what is it about this travel that I crave so much? Is it contact with nature? Is it the time off the grid? Is it really quality plugged in time with my kids and my family? Is it time away from screens and electronics? That's a big part of it for me, actually. So can I create that some other way? Can I create that more often, like every week, and maybe little pockets of it every day? That's what I did. So every weekend we go on long walks, we go to the park. I completely unplug from electronics for large chunks of the day, not completely, like not like 24 hours, but for large chunks of the day, I don't even know where my phone is. Half the time my phone's like somewhere else, and that's like, where's your phone? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't care, right? So we're completely we're in vacation mode. I figured out what the frequency of vacation is for me. And then I'm like, oh, I can just tune into this frequency in whatever circumstance I happen to be in. That's what I mean. That's pretty freaking cool, because now I don't have to wait until I save up enough money and buy the right ticket, or the world opens up again, or any of the other things that I would normally have needed to wait for to feel that feeling. I can just feel it now. Does that make sense? So that's how I do it. Renee says, rejoicing, reflecting, receiving, enjoying, and rejoicing/receiving. Alain says, you are someone that really pivoted her personal family during this pandemic to do something amazing with your kids, living life to the fullest. You and Pat are impressive. Aw, thanks, Alain. So here's what allowed me to do that. So I had a very clear thought at the beginning of this pandemic. I decided, it kind of was a decision actually, I decided that opportunity doesn't ever go anywhere. It doesn't disappear. Lots of people, and I was actually hearing this said to me on social and through conversations, it's like, oh my God, the market's going to crash, and the business is going to dry up, and this is going to happen, and da 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 da. Like I was hearing all of these things, same as you. But I decided that I know for a fact that billionaires are made during a shakeup like this, right? Every recession, there are people who massively flourish, and not in a bad way, not because they're vultures, nothing like that. They just happen to find something that is of massive value in the context of whatever's going on in the world. And then they take off. So opportunity shifts. It never disappears. It's like matter in the universe. Matter doesn't disappear or get created. It's the same amount of matter. It just changes form. So the cloud turns into rain, the rain turns into water, the water turns into tea, the tea turns into pee, etc. And there's that whole cycle. It just changes shape and it changes form. The cloud doesn't die. It doesn't go away. It's just changed, right? So I decided opportunity was going to be the same thing. So I just had to figure out. Now the question that I was asking was not, oh my God, what am I going to do? Opportunity is going to go away. I'm just like, what is this opportunity? What is the opportunity in front of me? And I took time to really slow down and reflect on that question. And we had opportunities business-wise, but we had opportunities as a family. We had opportunities to explore with, the way things were shifting in terms of our work schedule and our communication as a couple, because when I'm here working with you, that means Pat's with the kids, right? So it cut our work hours literally in half. And we were like, okay, you know what? We can panic about this and think, oh no, revenue is going to go down. Or we can think, how can revenue go up despite this limitation? How do we shift and really lean into this opportunity? And that's what we decided to do. We chose to do that. Does that mean that the answer occurred to me in the very first second that I thought this? I wish. Unfortunately, no. But I sat with it over and over. Again, I did that practice of visualization. I washed my cells every day in the feelings that I wanted to feel. And I remained plugged into the opportunity. And then when inspiration hit me, I was waiting for it. And when things shifted, I was like, I'm cool with this. This is cool. I like this. This is interesting. And then I found whatever worked for me in that situation, both family-wise and work-wise. So yeah. So Renee says, let's see here. So I just want to say, if you're in this position where you're trying to create abundance in your life, if you're trying to create abundance with your business, if you're not quite sure how to take all this, the vision that you have, the goals that you've set for yourself, smart or otherwise, and turn them into a reality, and you're looking to work with a team that not only will help you understand your own vision better, we will give you processes for how to really own the vision, how to really experience the vision, the way that I've described. We will help you understand what are your limiters and inhibitors, because if you don't speak to them and you don't get them released, and I don't mean conquering, we're not fighting fear or anything like that. That doesn't work. It just feeds it. Those fears are there to serve you, and those fears ultimately end up being a huge benefit. The fact that you felt those fears or had those blocks are a huge benefit to the people that you've been put here to coach. I mean, think about how lame this particular live would have been if I was like, and then I put a sticker, I put this picture, I cut this picture out of a magazine and I stuck it to my vision board, and I thought, I am totally going to be on the cover of Forbes. And then it happened. Like, how lame would this live be, right? That would be so lame, because I wouldn't actually know how the frick it happened, how I made it happen, what were the actual mechanisms. The fact that I got blocked and stymied and frustrated and, second guessed myself 18 gazillion times along the way, and have documented and paid attention to all of those different pieces so that I could bring up a coherent process that actually works, that I could then practice and repeat, use on myself, learn how to be my own best client, and then bring to you and teach you and, work with our clients on. That's a huge benefit. So if you're feeling blocked or stymied, pay attention. It is a gift. It is meant to be a gift. And if you can read it as the opportunity that it is, it will turn into that. I pinky promise you. Okay, I've lived it so many times now in so many different contexts. This is what we help our clients do. So if you're looking for this kind of support to really help you systematize your business so that if your work hours go down, your revenue either stays steady or goes up, then use the link that's on your screen and apply to speak to someone on my team to see if we can help you. And if we can't, we'll tell you. We'll tell you straight up that we don't know how to build whatever it is you want to build. We're very good at working with a certain kind of business and a certain kind of person. And we basically don't do anything else. We don't touch anything else. So if you're looking for this kind of support that's going to grow you as a human, that's going to help you plug into your vision, and that's going to help you birth that vision to the world while being nourished, while you resource yourself better than you've ever been resourced before, then use that link and talk to us. All right. I'm gonna check off now, but I'm gonna go into the comments. I'm gonna spend the next 15 or 20 minutes answering all your comments. If you have questions for me, pop in there, and then I'm gonna come back later on as well to check out comments. If you're watching the replay, don't forget to give me a hashtag and give me your biggest takeaway. What is the one thing that really landed for you where you're gonna be like, I'm gonna go do this thing. I'm gonna implement this. What are you going to implement? That's what I wanna know. Because if you can put that down in the comments and commit to implementing it, I promise you, you're going to be in a very, very different place not so long from now. All right, that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the comments.